Good evening, I'm Jonathan Higgins.
I'm Rich Carlson.
And we're the Scanner Guys, and we're live this evening, as always, every Wednesday night. So if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button on our channel. Also, give us a thumbs up down there. That'll be helpful as well. We haven't done one of these shows in a while. So basically, it's Ask the Scanner Guys. So we ended up going through emails, and we've had people contact us about putting things on the show. So a lot of those things are right on the show. So it ended up being a whole slideshow after all the comments and suggestions and what have you. So we are looking forward to it tonight. So definitely give us your questions in the comments below, or actually beside of us, depending on how you're watching it. So this evening we have a lot to go through. So welcome to the show. And let's start it off with the slideshow presentation for this evening. So it's Ask the Scanner Guys with an array of topics, and this is the June 2021 edition of Ask the Scanner Guys. And as always, we're brought to you by Scanner Master. So we want to remind you to follow, like, and subscribe to the Scanner Guys on social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. And make sure while you're here, hit the subscribe button so you can follow us all the time on YouTube. Also, check out our website, thescannerguyshow.com. We're going to continue putting up information on there about upcoming shows and so on. You can check out our blog on the website, sign up for our newsletter, shop our store. Hats, t-shirts, and coffee mugs are all available through our website. That'll help support the channel. And also, hopefully, help us with maybe planning a Dayton trip in 2022. So that should be really good. We're looking forward to that. So definitely check out thescannerguyshow.com. We have some interesting news on the 996P2. There hasn't been very much firmware-wise news, but we finally have something. Rich, tell us a little bit about what this firmware is all about. It's not for everyone.
No, it's basically if you have a newer 996P2 with a serial number on the label on the back that starts with the 378A like an atom, then there is an updated firmware version. All this is a little maintenance release that takes care of some newer hardware in the newer made radios. So they had to change some components, and the old firmware just wasn't compatible with those components. So they got a new version of the firmware, and trying to avoid the debacle that was the BC125 firmware update of the past. This firmware will not brick your existing radios. If you have an older radio, you don't need this new firmware. It doesn't add anything new to it. It just takes care of some things that the new hardware within the radio presents.
I getcha. So definitely this is a good thing to keep in mind. If you own a 996P2, check that serial number, see if it's in that position to receive this firmware, and go from there. So all good stuff. And as always, during these shows, we will update you with any major firmware updates that are available on both Whistler and Uniden side of things. So definitely keep an eye on our broadcast. So we've got a whole bunch of mini topics. These were things that a lot of our audience asked for that really can't fill an hour presentation. So we put together some mini topics. A lot of people ask us about the Jim M75 preamp. Now this is certainly a really decent preamp. It'll work really well, but these are things that you want to use when needed. Yeah. I've used this preamp for a feed that I hosted a while back for the railroads. And what I did was basically messed with the setting positions. B position worked the best for me because of it was tuned to the railroad band. And then adjusting the gain. Just trying to get a good adjustment on there. If you're running this on a wide array of things, use the weather. Know where the radio is a key thing. What you want to do is hook it up to the scanner. This basically goes in between your scanner and your antenna. And then what you would do is you can power this through the same outlet that you would use or plug as your 996.
Yeah. Yeah, it's the same power cord. And the thing is with preamps is they're not always for everybody. And you don't want to go for the best signal strength. You want to go for the best signal quality. So sometimes the best signal quality does not mean the gain cranked all the way up. Use the pre-selector switches. Try it in all three positions. Sometimes it might work better in the wide thing. It might work better in the lower one. You look at your frequency ranges that you want to listen to, and if it doesn't work for you, you might want to reconsider. The best place for a preamp is at the antenna if you're using a base station type of thing, if possible. So if you can do that, great. If you can't, put it at the radio.
Yeah, I mean, that's how I had it at the radio. It worked fairly well. Mm-hmm. What it basically did was cleaned up some of those weaker signals. I got a little bit better audio on those weaker signals, so it brought in a little bit more. I mean, it's not gonna increase your range by 100 miles. It's going to help things. Right. Joe is asking if it's battery powered. Yes, there's a compartment there. It is a 9-volt battery in the back of the unit. Because I use this all the time with a base radio, I ended up using an AC adapter to plug in, and that was your best option. So, as Rich said, lots of adjustments. You want to mess around with the gain. You don't want to pin it all the way to 20 plus, because that may not help things. You may end up opening that gate so much, you're getting so much RF interference, and it doesn't help things. Yeah. And if you're in an area where there's simulcast, we don't recommend recommend doing this. So this is basically our overview on the Jim 75. Now, I have one of these speakers, and I have this connected to my SDS 200, and I am surprised. It works really well. I mean, this is one of the cheaper Uniden speakers in the stable of speakers. Right. It's a small 3-inch speaker, works very well. Compact design. It's got that stereo plug, handles up to 7 watts, and it's got a 6-foot cord. It works great. And so far that's my favorite speaker connected up to the SDS 100. It works really well, and the great thing about it is that my SDS is on my desk. So rather than having that speaker that's on the bottom of the radio pushing down on the radio below it, I use this speaker to direct that audio.
Yeah, it allows you to put the audio and send the audio in the direction you want to send it. Plus, it's going to give you, it's a better speaker than what's inside the radio. It doesn't help you much for a handheld scanner. These work great for desktop or mobile scanners. But for handheld scanners, you're going to need something a little more oomph.
Yes. So this is definitely a great speaker to consider. If you're looking to purchase a speaker, go to Scanner Master's website. There's a link, an affiliate link, down in the description of this video. Click there, go to accessories, and then speaker accessories or audio accessories, and then you'll see this speaker there, and then you can order it. The speaker, I believe, is $19.95, if I can remember off the top of my head. Yes. So definitely check that speaker out. Use our affiliate link, because that helps us. And that's down below in the description, and you can order that from Scanner Master. Now, there's another cool thing for a lot of you out there that are ham radio operators, or you're using this in your vehicle where you have two-way radios. Mm-hmm. Now, this device is really cool. It's made by Spectrum Force, which is a division of Scanner Master. It's a speaker silencer. So what this basically will do is, let's say you have a couple of scanners in the vehicle or one scanner in the vehicle, and you're transmitting on your two-way radio. What it'll do is it'll mute the speaker. So you would need to, one, use an external speaker with your scanner, something like the speaker we showed in the earlier slide. Yeah. So what you would do is use that external speaker, And what'll happen is when you transmit on your two-way radio, it will mute the audio on that speaker, so you don't have all that interference going on in the background.
Yeah, and when you're talking on the radio and then all of a sudden your scanner, which may not even be tuned to the same frequency, will just come alive and it'll start that squeal and hang on, now you got to fiddle, turn off the volume control on the scanner. I do it all the time. I got to get me a couple of these.
Yeah, so it's a really cool product. That's another thing that you can check out in the audio section on scannermaster.com. If you're interested in this, full description on the website. Also, you can purchase it by using our affiliate link down below in the description on this video. We can't stress enough, that affiliate link helps us out. So that's another product that we've gotten some questions about, and I think that's either the second time we put it on the show. Yeah. Now, here's another item that we get questions about all the time with technology being what it is in vehicles with Bluetooth and Bluetooth speakers out there. So if you're trying to look for a wireless option in the home, or you want to use the speakers in your vehicle, you can send your scanner audio to your car stereo or Bluetooth by purchasing one of these Bluetooth transmitter receivers. Now, this is one that I was able to find online. It's able to transmit and receive. You would basically be doing transmit. It's relatively simple. What you would need to do is look at the owner's manual in your vehicle on how to set up a Bluetooth device. And what you would essentially do is you would get it in the mode where it's searching for devices. You would then power this mechanism on, and then it would find the device once it's powered on, and then your scanner audio will run through your speakers. Yep. So this is really a cool thing that you can do with your scanner to be able to run it either through the car stereo or Bluetooth speakers. So let's say your scanner is in one room and you want to bring the Bluetooth speaker and it's not too far away.
Yeah, you can also use it with Bluetooth earbuds, earphones.
Yeah, so a lot of options there, so definitely check that out. That's not something that we carry at ScannerMaster, but you can check out this company and the model number right on the screen. They actually have a website as well that you can check it out. It goes for about $35. I've seen it in a couple different locations for about 20 some odd dollars, so definitely search it out. But yeah, this is certainly a really cool thing there. Running through some more questions. Fire tone out on digital trunking. A lot of people ask us, they know that there's tone out capability on a lot of these scanners, but they're wondering how they set tone out. Now, the only time they're going to be able to do tone out is if they're doing a simulcast on an analog conventional channel.
Right.
With trunking, Rich, it's basically they're just using the tone out, not for pagers and so on, just to alert people that there's a call being broadcasted.
Right. When my fire department went to a trunking system, they continued putting the tones out on the trunking system, and the only thing they did was make the same noise that they had made on the conventional channel before the trunking system, so that the guys heard those tones and say, oh, wait a minute, that's me. Or I can disregard that's station 7 or something like that. So there is no fire tone outs as we know it on a trunking system. If you're hearing them on there, it's just either because they're simulcasting it with a conventional channel, or they're putting that out as kind of a noise maker for the guys to hear. On P25 systems now, they can do paging, but they're using digital paging, and something like one of the unication receivers can pick that up.
Yeah, so you'll have to have one of those unication pagers for digital conventional. But if there is an analog channel which they're simulcasting the dispatch, you may be able to set up tone out using that. But if it's just strictly on the trunk system, it's a no-go. We had someone email us a question about fire tone out. It's a really cool feature. We definitely could do like a how-to show on how to be able to set that up with a lot of those conventional analog systems. This we get a lot, and a lot of people ask about SD cards. SD card issues, whether it's corrupt or they're wondering if they need to upgrade their SD card or SD card. the first SD card scanner was the Home Patrol 1,
Right.
which came out in 2010, and that was when the SD card era took off. So now, Rich, here's the typical questions. I'm going to fire them off to you. You're going to give me your quick answer. What is the largest SD card I can put in the scanner?
Typically, it's 32 gigs. There's
Okay.
really no reason to put anything larger than a 4 or even maybe an 8 gig card in your scanner unless you're doing recording.
Okay.
The scanner can only recognize up to 32.
Next question that we get a lot. I've corrupted my SD card. What should be the first thing I do?
Well, the first thing, if the card is corrupt, you can try to reformat it. And if you can reformat it within Windows, then you can open up the Sentinel software, and then you go into Clear User Data in the one of the menus, and you select Clear User Data. You find your card. Make sure you click on the little box that says See All Drives or View All Drives. And if your card shows up there, then you can use that Clear User Data, hit OK. It will automatically format that card so that the scanner will understand it by putting certain files on that card, and then that way the scanner would recognize it. Then you take your you update your database and you copy your favorites lists onto the new or reformatted card, and then you can put it back in the radio.
And the other tip, make sure when you do this on the software that runs the whole plethora of radios, from the SDS's 436, 536, you select which radio. You have an option in the software what type of radio it is, so you kind of have it geared towards that.
Yeah, and that's in the target radio item in the menus. And like Joe mentioned there, working with an SD card in a card reader is going to give you faster throughput time than using the mass storage mode on your scanner connected to the scanner, because card readers are always going to be faster than what the scanner can read and write to the card.
Yeah, you think of it, at this point your scanner is playing as a large SD card reader, and it's a longer path for the data to get there versus an SD card reader. It's basically, it's going from your PC down the cable right to the card.
Yeah.
When it's in the scanner, it's going to go through that connection, and it's going to meander its way to the SD card. So it takes it a little bit longer. So SD card readers are great. The other thing that you can purchase, I have one here. This is an adapter, which has the full-size SD card, which will accept the SD card mini. But yeah, definitely do that.
Yeah.
And the other thing that Rich, real quick answer, should I have a spare SD card? Now, for those of you that have never seen this show, will know.
Positively, yes. On your portable scanners, make a spare SD card just like you're making a regular card, and tape it on the inside of the battery compartment so you always have it with you, because the time you're going to need it is the time that you don't have it.
Very good. So let's continue on with the presentation here. Now, we have a lot of people that use Macs, believe it or not, and they're entering into this hobby, and they assume, well, I have a Mac. You would think they would make software for, that's capable to run on a Mac. Unfortunately, that is not the case. The scanner community is very Windows-based.
Yeah.
So what that basically means, Rich, Parallels, Boot Camp, and all these are something that you need to run Windows.
So I'm a Mac guy. I mean, I swim in the Apple Kool-Aid out here. My pool is full of Apple Kool-Aid. And I'm a Mac person through and through. So I run Parallels. It works great. And you don't even need to buy Windows if you're doing basic stuff like this. When you install Parallels, it automatically will install a copy of Windows, and if it's not registered, it'll still work. If you want to do more extensive stuff and change background screens and stuff like that, then yeah, you can buy a copy of Windows, but you really don't need it. There's also VMware Fusion, and that does the same thing that Parallels does. It's an emulator. Boot Camp is a free software package from Apple that will allow you to run Windows natively on your Intel-based Mac. So if you have one of the brand new M1 series Macs, Boot Camp does not work, but you can still get Windows to work. It just takes a little more effort, and there are threads on Radio Reference by me that tells you exactly how to do that. And then the next question we get on that is, what about my smartphone or my tablet? So you got an iPhone, you got an Android, you've got an iPad. No, it ain't gonna work.
Yeah, and also, like you probably will need, when Sentinel asks about the net, you'll need to do that as basically an update in order to make the Sentinel software work properly.
Yeah.
And we've ran into some customers that don't have that framework set up on their computer. So basically, you just do a Google search and make sure you download it from Microsoft directly. Yeah. You don't want to do any third-party software because you could be ended up installing some malware.
Yeah, exactly. And what .NET Framework is, it's a programming language that is very commonly used on database programs such as Sentinel and some other software packages. So when you're trying to install Sentinel, if your computer doesn't already have it and you get that message, we've got the link there. If you just go to Microsoft.com and do a search, and usually you're going to want to have .NET 2 or 3.5. 4, 5, 1.x doesn't work, but 2 point something or 3.5 does. One of those, install that, restart your computer, and then install Sentinel, and you'll be good to go.
Oops. Went too fast. Okay, simulcast. A lot of people ask about simulcast issues. If you have an SDS 100 or 200, you really don't have to worry about this, or you have a unication radio.
Right.
It's not a big deal. With simulcast, the way that you're able to determine whether or not it's a simulcast system, let me just make this slide a little bit larger. You can see that we're looking at the Charlotte trunk system here. And you'll see that the name simulcast is right in the name of the site. So the Mecklenburg County system is a simulcast system. Union County, Cabarrus, Gastonia, and Stanley are all simulcast sites. So that means you may have an issue if you're running something other than a unication or an SDS. Right. And this is how you're able to determine it, by going to radioreference.com and then going to the trunk system that you're looking to monitor and then looking out for the words simulcast.
Yeah. Now, one thing to remember is that not all simulcast sites are properly labeled as simulcast in the database. Most are, but there are a few that aren't. If you're still unsure, if you click on the site name, you should be able to see the locations. If you see multiple locations scattered throughout the area, then you can. Then it is most likely simulcast. But for the most part, they are labeled properly.
All right, and we'll continue on. All right, so we've talked about this earlier. If you've got a handheld radio, the best way to get a little bit of oomph out of your speakers is to use some computer speakers, some powered computer speakers. You're going to plug that in to the headset jack. That allows you to be able to get that a little bit louder than what it is on the portable radio. Keep in mind that you may want to adjust the audio. You may not want to have it all the way to 15. Right. So put it somewhere in the middle and then adjust the knob or button on the computer speaker accordingly to get it to a comfortable zone.
Yeah, absolutely. So handheld scanners don't have a strong enough amplifier in them, and the audio is purposely limited for the speaker for a couple of reasons. Number one is to protect your hearing, and number two, to extend the battery life. So if you want audio that's going to fill up a garage or a room or something like that from a handheld scanner, or even in a car, you're going to need an amplified speaker.
Very good. A lot of times we asked about, we have 4 scanners and 1 antenna. What can I do? We've talked about these a lot.
Yep.
Multi-couplers.
Oh, I love my Stridsberg. I've got several of them in my cabinet back there, and I've got one on my desk rack here. We have them in 4, 8, and 16 port. We actually have a 16 port multi-coupler now that allows you to share up to 16 radios from one antenna. And, you know, if you only have 2 or 3 scanners, then get the 4 port. You got 5 or 6 or something like that, get the 8 port. If you're like me, you might want to invest in the 16 port. They're expensive, but they're very good, and the support from Stridsberg is superb. They are really, really great about supporting you.
And if you're interested in purchasing one of these, you can purchase it through Scanner Master. There's an affiliate link down below. Press that, and then you'll find it under Antenna Accessories and Multi-Couplers.
Yeah. And don't forget the jumper cables. We have them in 1, 3, and 6 foot lengths if all your scanners are in the same area. And you will need 1 jumper cable for each scanner.
This is another question that we get quite often. So they end up purchasing a 325, a 436, an SDS, or a Home Patrol, and they're wondering, how do I plug this into the car? The same way you would plug in your cell phone. Through a USB cigarette lighter adapter. Some vehicles actually have USB connections in the vehicle, so you won't even need one of these adapters. So yes, you can charge your scanner or power your scanner in the vehicle by using one of these. This is certainly quite helpful because, you know, why are you going to run your battery down when you can plug in?
Yep, absolutely. Yeah, like I said, my car has got USB ports, and if you've got an SDS 100, see if your car has got a higher power USB port. Oftentimes they're shown with a yellow plastic insert within the rectangle. The plastic part that stick out is sometimes yellow. If that's the case, use that one. That's the higher power one.
Okay. Encryption. We're asked about this daily. My local police department went to an encrypted system. Can I still hear them? No. No, you cannot still hear them. And we also get the question, if I get the Pro Voice update, will I be able to hear them? No. Sorry. Neither one of those. You cannot hear encryption. So as soon as they decide to turn on encryption, that's it.
Yeah, about half the time when people want to get the Pro Voice update, it's because they think that it'll allow them to hear encryption. Well. And the question had come up about the USB plugs, will they work with the 396XT? They will not. 396XT does not have USB power, and you need to use a standard cigarette lighter plug adapter that comes that you can buy separately for it.
That's for sure. The evil E, as always. Digital formats. How do you able to see what these digital formats are? I've given an example on the screen of a couple of different things that show it. So Pro Voice, as we just spoke about, is typically a part of an EDAC trunk system. And then the digital voice is called Pro Voice. And you will see this at the top of the trunk system. This is actually from the Massachusetts Bay Transit Authority trunk system. As you can see here, it lists the information that would typically be at the top of the page. And it shows that the voice communication is Pro Voice. And what you would then see below is the talk groups. As long as all those talk groups have a D next to it, which indicates that it's digital, that means that you would need Pro Voice technology. Now we're going to look at the second one, staying within Massachusetts, the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Interoperability Radio System. Now this shows here Project 25 Phase 2. That means that the system is Project 25 Phase 2 capable. Right. Now here's things that you want to keep in mind. If you see any D's, that means that it's Phase 1 digital. So if you have an older radio that's able to support Phase 1, you may be able to hear it. If you see any T's next to the talk groups, that means it's a talk group that's TDMA Phase 2. So that means that you would need a newer radio. So, don't be scared off by seeing Project 25 Phase 2. You may see some systems out there that say system type, and you may see a whole slew of Ds. Yeah. And that means it's just Phase 1. So definitely keep that in mind. Going down a little further down the list here, we've got some frequencies here that show NXDN. And these are conventional frequencies, so you would look in the mode column. Right. Now, we see two that are wide open, and then we see one that has that dreadful E beside of it. Rich, what does that dreadful E mean?
So the E stands for encryption, and we hate encryption. It's a nasty 4-letter word with more than 4 letters. That's how bad it is. It's a 4-letter word that's 5 feet long. So encryption means you aren't going to hear it no matter what you've got.
So, Rich, if we see a lowercase e next to NXDN, that means what?
So if you see a lowercase e, that means it's part-time encryption. It could be that only certain radios are encrypted. Maybe the dispatcher is encrypted and the mobiles are not, or the other way around. Or sometimes they use encryption and sometimes they don't. If it's an uppercase E like this, that means it's encrypted on both sides and all the time.
So then we go down to the next section here, which is our good old P25. As you can see that the police department's running Project 25. We don't see any E's next to it, whether it be uppercase or lowercase. So that means that you're good to go. Yet again, it's in that mode column. So this is where your eyes, when you're looking at conventional stuff on radio reference, you want to scoot your eye across to the mode column and take a look there and to see what type of communication they're using. Also, you'll see with P25, you'll see the NAC code. Yeah. This is kind of the digital PL tone type of thing. That's the best way to relate to it.
Yep, that's pretty much the P25 equivalent to a PL or a DPL code.
And then you can see that the fire department here for fire department ops, it looks like this is New Bedford, Massachusetts. They are FM, so that means analog, or if you see FMN, that means FM narrow. Mm-hmm. And then we have, looks like a school here. A high school.
Yeah, that'd be my guess.
And they're running DMR.
Mm-hmm. Otherwise known as Morto Turbo in some areas. Or in some installations anyway.
So you can see here that there's a color code. They have a whole bunch of information that'll pertain to what you need to program in.
So with DMR, it's kind of an odd duck. Even though it's a conventional channel, which means it's a single repeater, the color code is kind of like the PL code. And then you have talk group numbers and slot numbers. So you'll notice that there are both of those listings are on the same frequency, but the talk group numbers are different. So it uses trunking features even though it's on a single frequency. P25 can do the same thing. It's called P25 single frequency trunking. DMR can do that. So that way you can still have a set of users that are in one talk group and another set of users on another talk group, and they wouldn't hear each other. Then slot means that they're using either slot 1 or slot 0.
So, Brian, yes, you can get the MBTA with a 996P2, but you need to get the Pro Voice upgrade. You can either purchase that directly through Uniden or you can purchase it through Scanner Master. They're going to need some information, your electronic serial number. They will need that and a couple other things, of course, make and model of your scanner, which, of course, it's a Uniden 996P2. But yes, if you have this upgrade for Pro Voice, and you're within range, of course, yes, you'll be able to hear the MBTA's trunk system for buses and subway ops. All right, let's go to the next slide here. New trunking versus old trunking. So many of you remember, the 780 and the 796D. These radios have been around for quite a long time before we got our new radios that really kept changing and changing. But these radios will work with most Phase 1 systems. Keep in mind, 700 megahertz wasn't a part of the band plan back then. So, and of course, they won't work on Phase 2 digital. So this is no different than, a 996T or a 396T or a 996T. The first generation of those radios didn't support Phase 2. We've had how many generations of the 996? 3.
Yeah, 3 at least, yeah.
Yeah, we've had the T, the XT, and now the P2. The P2 gives away what, Rich?
Phase 2. And the P2 does everything that the prior scanners do, that the XT does, but it also adds the ability to do Phase 2. The other question that comes up with the Pro 96 and the BCD or the BC 296 and 796 is, will they work on 700 megahertz systems? No, they will not.
No, I mean the 700 megahertz were opened up for trunking, not too long ago. I would say it's been for a little bit, but it wasn't available for communications way back when these radios came out.
Yeah, and even so, even if it's on an 800 megahertz system, almost many of those systems have been rebanded. And while you can get these other scanners to work in a fashion, I know you can get the 2096 and the Pro 96 to work on rebanded systems, but you need to do custom tables and all the rest of this stuff. And I think on the 796 and 296, they just won't work on rebanded systems. So it's time for a new scanner if you're doing a modern P25 trunking system. But they work great on conventional, like Dale says.
Yes, work very well on conventional. Now, a lot of you have got this question. You're getting into the scanner, field, or you have a friend or relative, and the first question they ask, I have a brand new zip code based scanner. Do I need to update it before I use it? Yes, I would say so. A lot of times the firmware is going to be when they manufacture the radio, whatever the last firmware, and they're not going to continue updating the flash all the time. Right. The other thing with the database is going to be as old as whenever it was manufactured.
Yeah, so we're getting brand new home patrols now with databases from 2014.
Yeah, so that means your database is dating back to 2014. So that means there's a lot of changes on Radio Reference since then. So the first thing you should do is either when you purchase it from Scanner Master is to have us do setup and optimization. So it gets it ready to go right out of the box. We'll create a favorites list for you. We'll update the firmware and we will update the database. Or the other option is you download the Sentinel software, and you can do that all yourself. You can update the database, check the firmware, and of course create your own favorites list. So you want to definitely do that because, Rich, prime example, 2014 is a long time ago.
That's like 7 years, if my math is correct. So a lot of stuff has changed in 7 years.
Yeah, so definitely keep that in mind. Whenever you purchase one of these radios, that's probably the first thing you should probably do. Update the database, update the firmware, and of course, create yourself a brand spanking new favorites list.
Yeah, and when you buy a new radio, unless you from us, unless you buy the option of the hometown updates or the database and firmware updates, they will not be updated by us. If you don't buy that option, we put the box the scanner came in into a shipping box and send it to you. If you buy the $39.95 updates, we will update the database, we'll update the firmware, and we will create the favorites lists for the county or counties that you choose.
And the other thing, when you download the Sentinel software, make sure you update the database within the software. You have to ping the server at Uniden. So when you download the software, take a look to the bottom left corner. You want to make sure that date is relatively recent. If not, go up to the Update tab, Update Database, HPDB. You want to make sure that database is up to date. So
and remember to write it to the radio. That's what we get. A lot of people will update it in the software and then not send it to the radio. Firmware updates are automatically written to the radio when you do a firmware update, but the database updates are not. So when you update your database, make sure you write it to your radio.
And there's a whole bunch of videos on the Scanner Master YouTube account on how to do all of that. So if you're not too familiar with it, take a look at that, and we'll be able to help you with that. Another real cool feature that we get questions about all the time, I want to set unit IDs so I know who's talking. I've figured out who's what, but I want to have it come on the radio. So Rich, take it away. Tell us about this.
So if you've got a Home Patrol or BCD 436, 536, or an SDS, you can turn on user ID in the menu, and you can actually program user ID so that the actual radio that's talking will show up with a name. So if you figure out that radio number 3985 is used by Barney on the Mayberry system, then you can program radio 3985 to show up as Barney on your screen when Barney is talking on his radio, and so forth and so on. So if you find out what Andy's number is and stuff like that, then you're good to go. So now we have a thing here. If anybody can figure out what the unit numbers there indicate or what they're for, then we will give you a shout out. But you program those user IDs so that the name of the user will pop up on your screen as you figure them out. That's something that's not normally in the database, so that's something you're going to have to figure out yourself.
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly a really cool feature. Like if you know that it's a dispatcher's console, you can put on there, dispatch, so you know that it's coming off of there all the time. You're going to follow a pattern. You're going to be able to, if you really pay attention, and you have the unit ID on your scanner, you're going to start figuring out the numbering system of everything. There's not just a pulling numbers out of a hat. And okay, you're going to be number such and such, and this radio is going to be number such and such. There is some sort of numbering scheme for the most part.
Right. So now look at the numbers that I have on the screen here. Not the names. We all know the names and stuff are from Andy Griffith, but look at the radio numbers and let me know if anybody can figure out what those radio numbers indicate. Then I will give you a shout out. Alrighty.
All right. Well, we'll move on from this. Rich, keep your eyes out for that. And look at this. We're going to take a look at a couple of shacks this week. So we've got some people that have sent in some really cool shacks. So we definitely want to recommend that you do that as well. Let's take a look here. So this is a before and after. Bob sent us his before and after. He really cleaned up here. Looks really good. He's got a multi-screen display on the after. He's got some great stuff on the wall. And he's even got the scanner guys on the screen there. He's got the as I can see over there, he's got the stack, the Spectrum 4 stack. Looks like the 4 stack. He's got a couple of radios there and a two-way radio. He's got all of his portables together. He's got the classic 396 there. I can see that silver-plated front, which stands out. A beautiful job, Bob, and I was happy that you shared your before and after. I mean, it's impressive. You went from before and after. I mean, your radios look really nice, all put together nice and neat there, and you've got an excellent workspace. Yeah,
it looks really good. He's got all the pizza stains cleaned up, and it did a good job. So it's a nice looking shack there, Bob.
Yeah, thank you so much for sharing that. It looks like he's got, of course, the SDS 200 there, which is looking good. It's right top on the stack.
Yeah.
But yeah, looks really good. Let's take a look at our next. Arthur sent in his, and this looks slick. I love what he did with. He's got the smaller shelf, which has got the SDS 100, the not discontinued BC125AT.
We got to get that in.
He's got the Anytone, which is a really good radio for any of you guys that are ham radio operators out there. The Anytone 868 UV is certainly a really good radio, so certainly can consider that if you're looking to get a handheld radio. We don't sell it here at Scanner Master, but it's really a good radio. Looking at his stack there, he's got some good radios. So looking at, he's got the SDS. It looks like he's just like Bob. He's got that SDS right at the top of the stack there. And then he's got the
looks like a 996
P2.
Yep, and then the 15.
And then the Radio Shack Pro 163.
Yeah.
And look what else he's done, Rich. And we've talked about this a lot. Bins and things to put your stuff in. And he's done exactly that. Look at that. He's got his programming cables. He's got his SDS accessories. And then he's got all of his batteries put together.
That's organized, my friend. That is organized.
Looks really awesome. I can't say enough about your shack there. I just, it's a couple of radios. It looks great. Keep these coming. Let me just put up the email address where you can send those into us, and that's thescannerguys@gmail.com, thescannerguys@gmail.com. And we can't forget, he's got the really cool looking modern Uniden speaker on the top with a two-tone, which looks really sharp as well.
Yeah, that bear claw is on the, or the bear cat claw is on the front of that speaker. And I often thought when I got my first speaker like that, I thought somebody dropped something. It took me a little looking at it to figure out what that was.
Yeah, I mean, it looks really good. I'm very impressed with both Bob and Arthur. They shared their shack, and if you want to do that, you can send it in to us, and you can enjoy your 15 seconds of fame right here on the Scanner Guys show. Let's go forward. So we have an interview next week. This gentleman reached out to us, Jock, and he is a ham radio operator, and he runs a Capital District New York State commuter assistant net. So they're looking out for accidents and things that are going on out there, and they're reporting it. So let's say if you were in the area and you're not a ham radio operator, you may want to listen to this net as you're commuting to work in the morning, because this will give you a heads up of what's going on. Rich, you have something similar for the ham radio, not ham radio, but the GMRS group out there.
Yeah, we do. In the Phoenix area, if you listen to 462.55 during the morning and evening rush hours, we have several of our members that post traffic alerts as they come up. Some of them are monitoring the local camera systems on the highways. We call them freeways out here, but the rest of the world calls them expressways. And as they come up with information, they put it out on there. So if in the Phoenix area, listen to GMRS, the Arizona GMRS Club at 462.55.
Yeah, and that's certainly something that's really cool. So he's going to talk about how they use the net to be able to communicate with everybody out in the field. That's also helping the other users on the network, and also for those people that are eavesdropping in. And he's going to talk about how they do that and how they use scanners as a valuable tool to be able to continuously updating those incidents on the roadway. As you travel as a mobile unit through the area, you're going to see the accident, you're going to go past it, but you're not going to know when it's going to clear unless another mobile unit goes through. So he's going to explain how he uses scanners along with his hobby of ham radio.
Yeah, and Jock, if I recall correctly, he wrote a column in PopCom, right?
Yeah, I think that's what he mentioned. He's been emailing emailing me today, and we set up a great interview. So that's going to be next week. So we're looking forward to that. And you can also, as we're talking about all this, you can watch us on YouTube if you have Roku or Apple TV. You can download the YouTube app, and that'll help you to be able to watch it on the big screen. So you can watch it on YouTube or Apple TV. You can watch us. And the next week's broadcast will be Wednesday, July the 7th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific, right here on our YouTube channel. Train Aficionado Live is going to be with you next week, Monday, July the 5th, after the 4th of July holiday. We're going to be live on Monday, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. Hopefully you tune in, watch us on the YouTube channel, follow, like, and subscribe to us on social media as well. Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram. And then check out the blog at trainaficionado.com. And we can't forget our sponsor as well, Scanner Master. For the last 40 some odd years, they've been the nation's most experienced dealer of all brands of new scanner software, accessories, and programming. Shop them online or call the scanner experts at 1-800-722-6637. They're open Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. And shop them online at scannermaster.com or email them your questions regarding scanners at support@scannermaster.com. And follow, like, and subscribe to their social media as well. And yes, the Amazon Fire Stick, you can watch us on that as well. But yeah, it's follow, like, and subscribe to Scanner Master on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube. So all good stuff there. And we are excited to take your questions on this edition of Ask the Scanner Guys. So we have a lot of check-ins as always. We appreciate those. But yeah, I mean, definitely we love those shacks rolling in. We like seeing people's shacks. Yeah. So definitely keep those emails coming in to us. We would love to see more shacks. You can email it thescannerguys@gmail.com.
Yeah. And this may be the last week we see that check. Changes are afoot. So there's going to be some stuff going on this weekend, and then the following weekend is going to be the completion. So, yes, there will be changes in the background here.
Yeah, so that'll be actually, well, the thing is, I don't want you to be discouraged by Rich's shack. I mean, that's abnormally large. Yeah. We're looking for, just like everyday usual shacks. I mean, I have an everyday usual shack here. It's not anything robust or crazy where it's got, 30 radios or 20 radios. It's small and it does the job for me. So don't be discouraged. Send your photos in. We like to see shacks, big or small. But yeah, I mean, we've got definitely a lot of people checking in tonight. Do we have some questions?
Yeah, we do. A couple of them, and I'll run through a couple of those pretty quick. First out, a shout out. Tomorrow is Canada Day. So it is Canada's celebration of their independence as well, like ours is the next week. So happy Canada Day to all of our friends north of the snow line. And Todd says that he's got a 436, and he's wondering what's the easiest thing to do to see if he's got a scanner that has the UHF mod for better reception. We spoke about this last week. On the 436s, some of the very earliest ones did not have a capacitor marked as C1 in the battery, in the back of the radio near the battery compartment. I'm trying to find my 436 here. There it is. It's hiding behind my 125, which has not been discontinued. And unfortunately, there's no way to tell whether or not your radio is missing C1 until you open the radio. You can look at the date code on your serial number. If you go to the Radio Reference Wiki and look up unit and serial numbers, there is a listing there of how to decode the date code. And if yours is a later version radio, then chances are you already have C1. But otherwise, you're going to have to take the back off to see for sure. And let's see here. Corey says he's got a 996P2. In the systems that you have in the radio, can you set the system site to another quick key within that system? So yes, you can set quick keys for sites, as well as setting up quick keys for systems and groups. I don't like quick keys. I'm not a big fan. They have their place, but my radio is not the place for it. Other people love quick keys, but yeah, you can set the sites up by quick key. Dale says the official unit and wall charger for the SDS 100 has an output of 2 amps. Most of those little wall cubes that you get with USB are 1 amp, but the one that comes with the SDS 200 is 2 amps, so it has more current. So if you've got an SDS 100, get a higher capacity wall cube or vehicle charger if you're going to get one other than the one that comes with it. iPad chargers happen to work really well with an SDS 100. Mike says the 396 and the 996 XTs will work on 700 megahertz systems if you're doing phase 1. Yes, they will. It's the 796 and 296 that does not work on 700 megahertz, but the 396s and the 996s, they work fine at 700 megahertz.
Which is a good thing because there's a lot of those still rolling around out there.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Ron got a 246 at a yard sale, really cheap. It works great.
A 246?
Yep.
Nice. That's a classic radio. I love the 246. I mean, that was the first radio that kind of taken on, the dynamic allocated memory structure.
Yeah.
It's it really, I had that in my vehicle, and I had one as a portable. I actually had 2 of those, and the keypad, I actually wore it down, so that was how much I used the radio. What is he asking about the 246?
He asks about EDX, P25, and so forth. So the 246 is an analog trunking scanner only. It'll work on EDX systems without Pro Voice. It'll work on analog EDX systems. It'll work on the older Motorola analog systems with the 3600 baud systems. And it will work on, I think it does LTR. I'm not positive. I never had a 246. It's one of the few scanners I never had.
Everything in Massachusetts was pretty straightforward. It was analog conventional, or the Mass State Police was analog trunking. So I didn't do anything too crazy other than that. But yeah, it's a really good analog trunking scanner. I would highly recommend that if you've got it kicking around. It's also a good unit to do rail fanning with as well. Of course.
Yeah, and anything about it, it's about the same size as the 125 and 325, so it's nice and compact, and you can get them for next to nothing these days, like mine did.
Yeah.
So, another question from Greg: can you monitor a two-tone alert on a DMR Tier 3 system? Again, two-tone alerting is not really a thing for trunking systems or digital systems. Yeah, you might be able to hear the tones, but you're not going to be able to decode them, at least not with a scanner. None of the scanners will decode two-tone on a trunking system at all, or on a digital system. It has to be analog conventional. There might be some alerting that you can do with a real DMR radio, but basically two-tone on trunking or two-tone on digital is just there for the noise, because people are used to listening to it. And he's doing it via his SDS 200, so that will not work at all. And yeah, my shack is a little robust, and yeah, it is definitely crazy. It will be remarkably less crazy than it is now, but it'll be still nice and neat. How many radios do I have? Let's see, I have 20 scanners, 2 ICOMs, and 2 two-ways, so there's, 24 radios in the shack and the rack. There's 8 over here, and then God knows how many handhelds. So I don't know, I got about 40 scanners in the room. And actually, I use most of them. Dan's shack looks like a hoarder. So, Dan, send us a picture of it. We would love to see it. And if you are embarrassed by your shack and you don't want your name on it, let us know, and we won't put your name on it, but we'll still show it so we can have some fun with it. So,
yeah, certainly send those shacks, and we would love to see photographs of those shacks, big or small. The great thing about it is, we learn something new from every one shack. There's different tips and suggestions. Why didn't I think of that? Putting the portable radios like that, or I noticed a common trend. Everybody likes to put the like me right here. I have the SDS 200 on the top. So.
Yeah. Well, there's a good reason why you want to put the SDS 200 on the top of one of those vertical ScannerMaster racks, is that the radio is actually not nearly as deep as the 996s, and with the position of the holes, it naturally falls to right about the front of the rack, whereas the 996s and other scanners tend to stick out a little bit further. So putting it at the top makes it more aesthetically pleasing without having to drill new holes on the side of your scanner
mount. Yeah, which you don't want to do unless you're able to put it in a vise and all this and be able to make sure it lines up perfectly.
Yeah, and that's going to be the hard part of lining it up. Dale asks, does the DMV title go with the rack because it's got wheels? Yeah, but it's lacking a steering wheel. So it does my cabinet there. And if you're ever considering doing something like this, get a network cabinet. They're not nearly as deep as a server cabinet. You don't need that depth. And they do come with wheels, so I can just pull the whole thing out, get at the back of the wiring, and push the whole thing back. So it makes it really nice and easy to do that. Let's see here. Dave is late. So, Dave, I think that's the second time you've been late. So set an alarm on your phone so that it starts ringing a couple minutes before the show so you're not late next week, please. So we will forgive you this time.
There's a lot of people asking about shipping prices. Yeah. Unfortunately, a lot of it is out of our hands at ScannerMaster. The UPS and FedEx and the U.S. Postal Service kind of dictate what the prices will be. A lot of them have gotten smart with box size. Essentially, they look at their trucks as real estate space. So depending on if you're ordering a ferret antenna, that's going to take up a lot of space. It's 8 feet. In an 8-foot tube, it's going to take up a lot of space. Small antenna like Rimtronics still is going to take up some space. So what I would suggest recommending is putting together a wish list of items, making the shipping worthwhile. Yeah. Unfortunately, with something like the Rimtronics antenna, I'm going to be absolutely honest with you, there's not enough profit for us to eat the shipping.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, there's just not enough profit there. So, a lot of companies, they'll either offer free shipping, and they have items that they make tons of profit on, and they're able to give free shipping. Unfortunately, in the scanner industry, you have to realize it's a niche hobby. So we don't have 9,000 different parts that we sell. It's a small variety of parts, right. And a lot of it, there's not a lot of profit. So we see that all the time. Unfortunately, I've noticed shipping rates have gone up, and I agree. It stinks.
Yeah, but we're charging what it costs us to ship it, so we're not making any extra money on it.
Yeah, and that's what we're trying to be fair with it, because we totally feel your pain.
Yeah, absolutely. What about the GPS kit? When will that be back in stock? We got a bunch of them a couple weeks ago, and they sold out pretty quick. And I anticipate the next batch that we get, when we do get them, will probably sell out pretty quick. On anything that's out of stock, go to that product page on our website. Click on the little box towards the bottom of the page that says "Email me when back in stock," and we will send you an email. Those walk in the back door. They get checked in by the shipping dude, and those emails go out automatically, and you will be notified. And on something like the GPS kit, that we get limited quantities and they go quickly, when you get that email, make sure you go to that, click on that link right away and get it, because they don't last long when they do get here. So
yeah, and we're talking about GPS scanning all the time on the show. I mean, a lot of times when we talk about any of these receivers, that usually comes up as a quick discussion. So that's definitely something that that you want to keep in mind. With the firmware, we get this question a lot.
yeah.
Take a look at the firmware edition. See if it's going to be relevant to you. A lot of times, if you go to the wiki page on Radio Reference, or you go digging through the forums, there'll be an announcement about the firmware. You can see whether or not it would be helpful. I mean, 99% of the time, updating the firmware is going to be helpful.
Yeah.
So
and also, United's own website will usually have a list of what each firmware version did.
yeah, and that's definitely a key thing to keep in mind.
But firmware will not make your 246 work on digital systems. So unfortunately, there's no firmware will ever make an analog scanner work on digital.
Yeah, that's all hardware and on being able to decode it.
Mm-hmm. So Brian says he's got an SDS 200 and a 996P2. Should he buy that rack, the vertical rack? With two scanners...
I have it right here with two scanners. I like it because it just keeps it all contained and it looks really cool. I actually have those radios. I have the top is of course, the SDS 100, and just below it, I have the 996P2. The reason I'm running my local county public safety on the SDS, and the radio below it, I'm running the railroads. Now, the reason why I'm running a 996P2 is it has the NXDN upgrade in it. So if they ever start to experiment with it, I have a radio that'll be able to handle it. But yeah, I have that in one of these. What I would recommend is putting some rubber feet on the bottom of the stand. That helps things so it doesn't scratch the table, and it lifts the scanners up just a hair. But yeah, I have that right here in my office. I've got them stacked up together. It looks really good. And I just like it. It just keeps everything contained.
Well, I love those little stick-on rubber feet. I get them. When I use the desk rack, I also use those stick-on rubber feet for that. But I have those on just about everything. I've got these stands for my monitors, these metal stands that lift the monitor up off the desk a little bit, and I bought some new speakers. And I wanted to put those speakers underneath the monitor stand, and they were just a little bit too tall. The speakers just a little bit too tall to fit in there. I put a couple of those little rubber feet on there, and that brought it up just right. I have them on the bottom of the scanner here. They work great, man. I love them. They get them at Home Depot. They're dirt cheap.
Yeah, and of course, without talking about rubber feet, the Velcro strips, which I don't have one right next to me, which we both love, Joe. It's just not rich. Oh, here we go. I got one right here.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, so this is great. So let me unravel this. This is one of my programming cables here. And I buy this at Lowe's or Home Depot. It comes in a roll. And then basically you'll loop it through. It loops through so it'll connect to this. You won't lose the rubber.
Yeah.
Not the rubber, the Velcro, I should say.
Right.
And then you wrap up your cable. And then you just Velcro it together, and then you're good to go. You don't have the cables all messy.
Yep, and like Art's case or Art's shack, very organized. That keeps your cables organized. So I buy those things. I buy about 5 packs of those things at Home Depot when I buy them, and I've got several hundred of those things. They work great.
Well, Todd, happy 41st birthday on Friday. Hopefully, you'll have something great for you for your 41st.
Well, we'll send him a complimentary SDS 100. How's that? We'll have to charge it to your account, though, Jonathan. Right?
No, I don't. Unfortunately, I can't buy that. I mean, I've got one SDS 200, and that's all I've got right now. So
yeah. Let's see. Oh, yeah, Joe had a great suggestion. If you've got other friends in your area that also are buying scanner stuff, pool together and send them together and then split the shipping. Or if you need some accessories, buy an SDS 100 because you get free shipping in the SDS 100 and we'll put the accessories in the same box and won't charge you for shipping. So for that $30 antenna, buy a $650 radio to get you free shipping.
I don't think that's going to void well with most people. But yeah,
it'll be fine for most people. Just the spouses probably won't like it when they get the bill.
Yeah. But yeah, he's getting the 436 HP, which getting it back from April. Well, that's awesome. The 436 is certainly a great model. We had a whole show where we talked about the 436 and the 536. In case you missed it, watch it on our YouTube channel. Some great stuff there.
Yeah, inside and outside looks. So apparently Windows 11 has been introduced recently. We don't know enough about it to understand how the driver situation is going to work and everything else, and whether or not current programs will work with it. From what I understand, there's going to be some new hardware requirements for Windows 11. There's a trust chip that's going to have to be in there to make Windows 11 work. So it'll be Windows 10 will still be the normal Windows operating system for most people for several more years, and it'll take a while before Windows 11 takes over. It took years for Windows XP to take over from was it Windows 3 or whatever it was before?
95
and 98. Yeah, and
95, 98, and then there was Windows XP, and then there was the disaster of Windows 8 or 9 or whatever the hell it was.
Oh,
and then
8, and then, what was the other
Vista?
one? Vista, yeah. Well, what a disaster that was. But the thing is Windows 10 will continue to be supported for years. So I don't worry about Windows 11. If you want to be an early adopter, let us know. I did kind of the same thing when the M1 Mac first came out. When we got one, I played with it to try to make Sentinel and Arc products and stuff like that work in it. And I got it to work. It took me a little work, but it works now. Roger says that the serial port is missing in his settings on the 996 P2. So the set serial port is going to be under the GPS menu, because that's where you set the serial port information for the rear serial port. The front serial port doesn't have its own settings. It should just be on the. I don't have a 996P2 handy. That's an XT. But to set the rear serial port, you do that in the GPS menu. I don't think there's any settings for the front serial port on the 996P2. And let's see here. And then on the XT, you can set the baud rate and then select the front port or the rear port.
Yeah, it's under settings and then set. Where is it? I'm on my 996P2. Mm-hmm. Set GPS format and then set GPS baud rate.
Right.
So yeah, that'll be for the rear port. I don't think you can't do it on the front port.
Right.
It just doesn't support it.
The front port is the USB port, and when you plug a USB cable into there and plug that into the computer, it's kind of the radio's got a built-in USB serial adapter, and you set that COM port number through Windows, in the Windows menu under Device Manager. So that's where you set the COM port information for the front serial.
I guess Joe is not a huge fan of Windows.
Yeah, he must be a Mac user like we are. So
yeah.
And let's see here. Bill's got a SDS 200 and a 100. Those are his everyday scanner. He hasn't missed the 246 much. Yeah, if you've got an SDS, the 246 is kind of pales in comparison, but in its day it was great, and the fact that it's nice and small and compact, and it actually receives very well. Let's see here. GPS settings. Let's get that. I love my Velcro. So let's see here. Got the 436. Update the firmware, Roger. Yeah. So again, update the firmware if in doubt. But yeah, it's going to be under the GPS settings, and there's not a separate COM port settings on that anymore. Let's see here.
While you're looking, I can talk about a little bit. So I set up on one of my radios. I have over here. You can see some of the radios right beside of me. So I set up on my one of my 536s. I set up the Wi-Fi dongle. So I have a Kindle Fire. So I ended up setting that up. Works really well. I had to use an external Bluetooth speaker because it just wasn't loud enough. Yeah. Works really well, because I have this radio connected up to, of course, the new outdoor antenna, so I can get some better reception than I would typically in the bedroom. But it works really well. I was very impressed. You're allowed
to have a scanner in the bedroom?
Yeah, I have. There's 2 scanners in the bedroom.
Wow, my wife won't let me have a scanner in the bedroom. She says I can do anything I want here in the office, or out in the garage. But
I don't understand why she can't hear it.
She can't. It's the light that bothers her. So.
Well, you could. What if you just took a turned off the light?
Yeah, I know. She still won't allow me. She says she doesn't like the clutter. So, and she lets me have this. I'm not going to argue about something little like that. So. Let's see here. Joe's likes apples, but he's not a Mac person. Oh, man, we have to get Joe converted to a Mac person. Let's see here. And so 95. Yeah, Windows 95 versus Windows 98. Yeah. Windows 98 was the last version of Windows that you could go back and drop out of Windows and go back to DOS. I mean, straight DOS versus having a DOS window. So if you were doing radio programming back in the day when a lot of that stuff was still written in DOS versus written in Windows, Windows 98 was the last operating system that you could actually back all the way out to DOS and not have Windows running at all. Windows 95 did that really well, but Windows 98 did as well. But I was never a big fan of Windows. It was what I worked on versus what I like to use, which is the Mac. So that is about the extent of the questions. Yeah, happy wife, happy life. Yeah, you betcha. So
we want to just remind you, to subscribe to the channel. Do that right now if you're just watching us for the first time. We want to remind you that Scanner Master, of course, is our sponsor. So since 1978, the nation's most experienced scanner expert with all brands of new police scanner software, accessories, and programming. Shop them online or call the scanner experts at 1-800-722-6637, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. Eastern Time. Online at scannermaster.com. Email them, support@scannermaster.com. And follow them on social media, Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at Scannermaster Co. So good stuff there.
Yeah.
We have an interview for next week in case you're joining us and you're from the New York Capital District. You may want to tune in because Jock will be joining us. He's a part of the ham radio community out there, and he operates a commuter assistance network. So if you're a ham radio operator, you may be interested in this, or if you live in the area and you want to eavesdrop in on your scanner, you can do that as well. Or if you're a ham radio operator and you want to start one of these in your local area, he'll talk about all that and how he uses scanners to be able to do that. And you can definitely watch us on your Roku or Apple TV or your Fire Stick. You can do that by downloading the YouTube app. Next week's broadcast will be Wednesday, July the 7th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. So hopefully you'll be able to join us right there. And just before that show, we have Train Aficionado Live, for which we have to come up with a topic. That will be Monday.
Let's talk about trains. How's that?
Yeah, well, that's definitely going to be the main topic. The next broadcast is Monday, July the 5th, 8 p.m. Eastern Time, 5 p.m. Pacific. Follow them on social media as well, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at Train Aficionado. And subscribe to their channel as well. So all good stuff there. And don't forget about social media, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, and Instagram at the Scanner Guys. And check out our website, scannerguyshow.com. You can buy hats, t-shirts, coffee mugs, and all that from our website, which will help support the channel as well. So, we've got a busy holiday weekend coming up. Yeah. So, definitely make sure your scanner is programmed and ready to go. You'll hear people doing things that they're not supposed to be doing with fireworks.
Yeah. And if you're out west, it's going to be fires. So,
yes. So definitely have, some of those things, some of those public safety agencies programmed into the scanner.
Absolutely. Yeah, and please be safe out there. If you don't know what you're doing, don't light off those fireworks.
All right. Is there anything else you want to say? Or
no, I think not. Have a happy holiday weekend, and for both our Canadian friends up north and us here in the States. And we will talk to you next week.
All right. Well, you have a great night. So much information in the show. It'll be available for replay to watch right on our YouTube channel. Thank you so much for joining us this evening. I'm Jonathan Higgins.
I'm Rich Carlson.
Have a good night. We'll catch you again after 4th of July on Train Aficionado Live on Monday, and then back again for the Scanner Guys on Wednesday.